honor for me to be part of this discussion, and this is the right opportune time that we discuss these issues in a more contextual way, and also take this forward uh, for saving our people and the country from the extreme event. So, thank you so much for inviting me, and let me uh, bring the issue in the context, and then we can uh, elaborate on what exactly is the scenario building up as part of the climate change impact in the future. Uh, I am by training I am a weather forecaster, so I have been part of these you know the predictions, day-to-day predictions of weather. So, and I have in fact had the privilege of traveling to every state in Northeast, and I've seen the kind of extremes that are being witnessed by these states. In fact, entire Northeast, entire East India is prone to is highly vulnerable to climate change, but more particularly the Northeast is very highly prone. But more importantly, Assam, in fact, is we have done a study recently on the vulnerability analysis that have been carried out as part of DST. Uh, Assam is considered to be most vulnerable in the entire Himalaya. Part of the Assam is plain, but part of Assam is also hilly. So it comes under the in the semi hilly region. Uh, Before I come to more important issues of Assam and the flood and related areas, let me dwell upon the kind of scenario that are building as part of the climate change. Uh, the last IPCC report, there is a sixth IPCC report, which was brought out in 2021, brought out some very startling, messages. And one message is that how the temperatures are going to change in future. And I'll give you just the sense of the change that has taken place. Last if you look at the temperature change in last 100 years, so the change has been to the tune of nearly 1.1 degree centigrade in the time from the pre-industrial era to now. So about 100 years so. If you calculate the decadal change, average decadal change comes to zero point 0.1 degree centigrade. But the IPCC report that has come out last year shows that now the decadal change will be nearly double or more than double of the last century. That is so. This all these so whatever changes we have experienced so far is going to be, in fact, much more alarming in the future. Now, you already we have the World Meteorological Organization report showing that the number of hydrometeorological disasters are increasing at the rate of uh, you know 15 to 20% per year, which means that every year new disasters are added, hydrometeorological disaster, and mostly in the hydrometeorological disaster you have cyclones, you have major storms, even thunderstorms, the cloud bursts, all that come under hydrometeorological disasters, and including the heat waves and the changes that are taking place in extreme temperature. Now, if this is so, you already have increase in last. If you see last 70 years, the trend shows that the number of disaster, not only number, frequency, intensity, and duration, all the three have increased by 2 to 3 times. Now, India has a very important case here compared to the rest of the world. So, if the temperature in future, as IPCC says that you are going to have temperature nearly the rate of change in the temperature is going to be nearly double of the last century change. You are going to have the impact of this change, direct change on the extreme events, which means if the last 5 decades or 6 decades has seen the doubling of the extreme events in terms of their number, intensity, and the duration, we are going to witness a much more catastrophic situation in future. India is a case very important, and especially the eastern part of the country and the northeastern part of the country, they have a very unique case as compared to other parts of the world. Why? Because India has a very high population density and the poverty levels are very high. Not just India, but some of the other South Asian countries, Bangladesh is one case, Myanmar could be another case, but most of those areas are very poor. The per capita income of these places is much below the average. Even the average of India and globally it is much less. Now that will make a lot of impact. Why? Because it is the coping capacity of people in the region that is that will decide the impact of these extreme events. So if the coping capacity is less, people have less income, less economic conditions, and therefore they had the less capability of handling or coping with these extreme events. And there comes the reference of Assam and other areas where the floods are almost, becoming so frequent. Now, so this is a reference point I want to. Let me now come to Assam. So, Assam, in fact, has been witnessing floods from ages. It's not that we are any new thing is there. In the last, say, post independence, if you see, so there were something like uh, 10 to 12 major floods that have come to Assam in 2000, say 1954, 1962, 72, 77, 84, 88, 98, 2002, 2004, 2012. So you name the year. So actually, on an average, Assam receives major flood condition in every 5 to 6 years. And it's a very typical. I have studied. I've been in fact, I wrote a research paper long back on floods in India, and also I wrote a research paper on droughts in India. So I have been kind of seeing this floods and droughts in India, and I found that a very interesting correlation between floods and droughts. So if you see, whenever we have large floods, in the year when we have large floods, we also have large droughts in southern Tamil Nadu. The reason is that, see, whenever monsoon, when there is an El Nino period and the IOD, there is an Indian dipole, Indian Ocean dipole, these conditions are there. The rain become erratic. The monsoon become more, I would say, variable in time and space both in time and space. In this year, you see, in some areas you have a lot of rain, and some areas there were no rain. Now, let me bring climate change into this thing. This is the natural thing that you have variability of monsoon, somewhere more rain, somewhere less. But when climate change gets into action, you find that these extremes are going to be much more than in the normal period. Why? Because if you have higher temperature of the atmosphere, this will bring more rain because the water holding capacity of the atmosphere will increase. So you will have more extreme rain, but simultaneously you have more dryness in other area where there is a higher temperature. There's going to be more flood and more drought at the same time in the. And India is such a diverse country. You are going to have these things. So coming to the again the issue of floods. So Assam is a case where driven by largely all Assam floods are uh, driven by Brahmaputra and tributaries. So whenever you have floods in Brahmaputra, and Brahmaputra starts from somewhere else, comes from large part of the Tibet and China, and then comes and then so Brahmaputra and its tributaries, they get the more water flow because of heavy rain in the Himalayan region and also in the northeastern region. So interestingly, when there is a monsoon break, then also Brahmaputra will get more rain. The Brahmaputra basin will get more rain. And there is an active monsoon, then also Brahmaputra will get. Now I have seen, this is my research that I have seen in the last 30, about 60, 70 years. The change is also taking place in the flood in Assam. The two major changes are taking place. One change is that there is a shift in the flood time. Uh, if you see the record, the 100 years record that we studied, we found that in the till I would say 1970 or so, the floods used to be more in the month of August. But now in recent 30, 40 years, the more floods are in the month of July. So there is a shifting up. This is the one change that is taking place in Assam. Second thing is that the large scale floods caused by Brahmaputra, uh, river flow is now getting compounded with the flash flood events. So there are large number of flash flood events also taking, and they are short-lived, but they are more damaging because they damage in small area. Now all these floods, large floods and small floods, they are direct impact is one is the livelihood, so they will impact the population immediately. The population has to shift from uh, the affected area to a safe place, and this is where the disaster management comes into the picture. And India has made good progress in the area of disaster management, and thanks to the work that is done by NIDM, led by Dr. Akhilesh Gupta and many, uh, we now feel that it is the preparedness which should be the mantra for handling disaster rather than prevention. Prevention means you are, once the event has occurred, then it is the loss has already taken place. So world over, the preparedness is being, the key, I will say, mantra for this. I think someone mentioned this very important issue of people hesitating to leave their home in Assam. I had studied this in the context of cyclone, and I have in fact studied the pattern world over. So, you can see clearly the clear pattern seen between the people of Western world or those who are economically very strong or sound, and the countries and the places where the people are poor. In US, any cyclone comes, alert comes about 3 days or 4 days in advance. People are asked to vacate their houses. They will just lock their houses, put everything in their car, and then leave to some other place. And government organize, their safe, stay. Cyclone comes, makes some damage to the infrastructure, but no loss of life. In India, in fact, I have traveled widely from the entire coast, from Tamil Nadu to West Bengal. And this is our study shows that the tendency of sticking to your place is very common in the poor people, because their entire asset or their entire land, their resources are in their houses. All their belongings, everything in the house. They don't want to leave their house, and they think that and then this is God. He's going to save me. And this is the mentality all over in the country, everywhere in the country, and Assam is no exception. So this is the and government, in fact, so much of persuasion people are asked to leave and sing. In Andhra Pradesh, I remember in 1990 when cyclone was, I was what is called a cyclone warning officer, and I participated in this evacuation. 4.5 lakh people were evacuated, but they were all crying. When they were asked to leave, they were crying like anything, and they were fighting with the police and the. But this is the very natural kind of tendency that happens. But still, things are improving with time and see. Now, another impact that someone mentioned is the water quality. Now, whenever floods come, floods will bring impact on the water quality. Because it's a muddy water. It's not the fresh water that flows in the river during the flood. And Assam is having arsenic, of course, the predominant water impurity, but we also have other things. Fluoride also a very common impurity in the area of Assam. Nitrate and iron concentration also increases in some areas. Uh, and so the drinking water is a big challenge. And as I said, water all over, and then you find it is a very challenging to provide drinking water to people, and that too to such a large population. You can think of what bottled water supply, but there always been short supply in the area. So now coming back to, I'll say that when such a situation is going to, as I said, today's situation is still manageable. In future, things are going to be bad to us. What are the way out for this? And then I saw some slides showing uh, this is a way out to uh, some of the people are thinking, how do we adapt to the worsening situation of extreme events in India? And let us see context of floods in Assam. How do we manage? So I remember in 1987, I wrote an article in Hindu. I don't know whether I have copy of that. Survival in situ. This is the mantra that India and the area like Assam will have to. How do we survive in situ? In situ doesn't mean just there where you are, but can we create a better adaptive measures where you survive despite impact of extreme? And some of the things that is easily available in the north is like, for example, first thing is the housing. How do we survive with a better housing? And so the bamboo is the answer. Bamboo has the quality, the property of floating on the water, and I saw in somewhere, in the Ungal somewhere, I saw that when the water uh, table rises, and then the house also start going up, and then when the water subsides, it is coming down. So these are the way out that we need to think about. Also providing the other support to the population. Water is one area that you need to think about. Food is another area that you need to think of. I think we need a better preparedness measures and long-term planning, because if disasters are going to increase in their number and intensity, they are going to stay with us. And the option of leaving the place and going to far away places will not be a very viable option, especially for large population. When populations are going to be very small. I think we need so many adaptive measures, and this is a debate that we need to initiate on much larger scale. I think we need national experts, and we need technologies to introduce. So uh, the technologies that are going to support in the key issues of key infrastructure which are going to be impacted by climate change, mainly the housing, the food, the water, the clothing. All these areas are going to be very critical, and we need a more uh, in-depth debate on these issues. How do we? I think instead of getting frightened by the scenarios shown by the scientists in terms of increase in extreme events and so on, need a very better understanding of science, better understanding of what is going to happen in future, and better understanding of what should be done to meet this challenge. I would end by saying that, in fact, Department of Science and Technology is running two national missions. One on the national mission on sustaining the Himalayan ecosystem, and also the national mission on strategic knowledge for climate change. These missions are addressing the scientific issues, research issues that need to be taken up as part of the adaptive actions. Uh, we in fact are our through our network of researchers, we've been able to have some excellent research carried out in this area. One research which is going to come up very shortly in a few months' time is that we are doing for the first time in the Asia the district level risk analysis. You have seen the vulnerability analysis. There is going to be risk analysis for the entire Himalayan region by December first week. We are going to release this report. We are already ready with it. And this risk report will be very useful to your Assam to know, to understand which are the districts and sub-districts which need to be focused on disaster management work and where you need a lot of preparedness and other issues. Government of Assam, I know, is very, very proactive, and but it is the institution like Mindshare and some other NGOs and the government institution, they are supposed to sensitize the government that look, you are going to have much more difficult and challenging time than now. It's better to prepare yourself. This will save your economy. This will help you uh, growing in terms of your state economy. Very important because disaster management and economy are interlinked. Annually, now 1.5% of the GDP is lost because of the impactful extreme events, which is a sizable amount. And we need to save the country, save the region, and save your state like Assam. Thank you very much for inviting me.